Hello, everyone, and welcome back to 1000 Gurus. Dorothy, welcome back to the show. Insert
Hi.
applause. Thank
Awesome.
you. Thank you for joining. Thank you again, Dorothy, for being here. This is basically going to be a catch up refresh episode. So, your last recording was episode 5, and it was recorded in August 25th of 2024, so last year. So we've obviously caught up and talked and hung out since then. Most recently, like 3 or so weeks ago. So I just want to ask, what are some life updates you've had since your last recording about a year ago?
I am now a fervent believer in Jesus. I reestablished my faith
Fervent.
this year. Yeah. Um,
So you weren't
that's
fervent before?
no.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think it's one thing to say that you are Christian, but it's like another thing to like actually abide in Jesus and be obedient. And so that is something that I am doing now. I am single and no shade to any of my exes, but considering that I've been in a relationship since I was 18 and have jumped from relationship to relationship, this is the longest I've ever been single in my adult life. And so I
How long
think,
has it been? May, June, July,
but we're
August.
good
So it was like
friends.
nine
Yeah.
9 months ago. All right, so you broke up 9 months ago. You're single. You're loving life. You are more a fervent believer in Jesus. Any other life updates?
The biggest thing is this is the first Saturday that I am not scheduled to work.
Wow.
And I
Congrats.
I want to illustrate that. So since I opened the business in May 2018,
Yeah,
I was 21 at that time. I've always worked Saturdays. And the only times I would have Saturdays off is when I would find a substitute or we would be off because of a holiday and closure dates.
right.
Um, but we just started a new season and my bestie Jacqueline, she's my co-director at Charade. She actually advocated that I would have my Saturdays off. And so it was super foreign to me when she first pitched it, but I was open to it. And yeah, now the business is running without me on Saturdays, and it's so great. And I was able to get a lot of things done today that I wouldn't typically be able to do on a Saturday. So
So it's
that's,
still open, but you're just not scheduled to come in and work.
yeah.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
It's super monumental, again, because I've always worked Saturdays, but
Right. You're like,
yeah.
what is this feeling? It's a Saturday. Shouldn't I be
Yeah.
at work?
Yeah. I woke up today and I was like, "I'm not going to work." So
That's
that's
a
that.
entrepreneurial business life.
Yeah. I've been better at that. At least better at drawing the line between work and not work. And then another big update is I found an amazing church and I am serving on the prayer team. So I'm like super into like um yeah, just like my gifts, my spiritual gifts within the faith. So yeah, I'd say those are like some of the biggest things right now for me.
Nice. Happy for you. It seems like your life has been making a lot of progress, or you've been making a lot of progress in these different areas, and you seem a lot happier. I'm happy for you.
Yes.
So I'll go over the main topics that I have brainstormed based on what you put in. So there's stuff about finance, boundaries, self-discipline, weight loss, romance, Jesus, um, yeah, single life, etc. So we'll see where this goes. I have some brainstorm questions, but we can obviously tackle it and jump around, and organic questions will come around. But that's kind of like the format. Is there any topic you want to start with first? Because they're not really in order. They're just more. I have a list of questions and I grouped them by categories. But do you want to start on any specific category?
No preference.
All right. Then we'll go into the first one. So first topic is, I guess, finance, but you mentioned testimony of finances in business. Could you clarify that? And or how have you improved your own finances and what has been working better for you?
Okay. So I'm gonna jump into my testimony. I grew up believing that God doesn't need your money and you should only tithe if you have the funds to tithe, but you don't have to tithe. And um, it's been confirmed and reaffirmed by many people in my life that that's the case. And only recently I started to challenge that. And the reason why I challenged it was because one of my friends, his name is John, he's a great friend. He shared his testimony of surrendering his finances, even though he was financially struggling. And I was blessed by hearing that message. But then also, I was reading the Bible more because, I am actually fervent now as a Christian. And there's a story in the Bible where a woman who's a widow and she gives a penny, but Jesus looks at that and is like, wow, that's amazing because she has nothing, but she gave everything. And in comparison to the rich people who gave way more than she did, like in proportion to what they have, it's nothing. And immediately I started to tithe and I was blessed so fast. Um, so this is what happened. May I share it, or am I still on topic?
Go ahead. This
Okay,
your
cool.
your testimony.
Okay. Um, so essentially I decided to tithe 10% of like what I made. And it was really, really hard because I'm in a lot of debt right now after renovating the studio. And when we like used up all of those funds, I dug into my personal credit cards, um, other things for the studio. And so I'm in a massive debt right now that I'm paying off slowly. And the idea of giving up 10% of my monthly income to the church was like really hard. But I did it anyways, and it was a complete act of surrender. And immediately after doing that, I actually felt really good because it really showed me how tight my grip on money was. Um, and so immediately, like after doing that, my studio got booked for a rental out of nowhere, and we made like an easy 200. And then I got booked for privates, and that was like another like easy 85, and like so on and so forth. And I think the biggest thing though was this past month, it's still considered summer for a lot of students at my studio. And last year, I actually had to take a 10K loan out because we didn't have enough to pay for the lease and all the instructors when a lot of kids dropped. And so a year later, you would think that we're better prepared, but it appeared that we weren't because like more kids dropped off this year for summer. And again, I was prepared to do it all over again, take another 10K loan, and then use all of my money to pay that loan off as soon as I can. But I just kept holding off not taking that loan and praying like, God, please, like I really hope I don't have to do this again. And again, like after tithing and all the influx of like money that we got from just random bookings and other things, like we happened to have enough to pay for the lease and the staff and the utilities and everything. And so hallelujah that I didn't have to take out that 10K loan, but I really could have easily needed to have done that. Um, and then another situation this month was I have like a limited amount of cash in my wallet. And so my friend John, he shared that he felt compelled by the Holy Spirit to tithe more than 10%. And that when you tithe, you should tithe in like an amount that feels like an act of surrendering. And so again, so yeah, I had cash in my wallet. It's like all the cash that I had. but I went to visit his church, and his church was growing, and I just felt convicted to just give all the cash that I had in my wallet. Um, and I viewed that as like an act of surrender because, I mean, it's not even my church, and there's no way to record it. So it was a clear act of generosity and also just being obedient to the Holy Spirit. After I tithed that amount to his church, like I immediately got 10 times the amount back through like other random rentals, random bookings for private lessons, random XYZ. And so I think like I think things are looking up for me financially when I exercise abundance first.
That sounds like an incredible story. I feel like when I've come across similar testimonies in the spirit of generosity, whether it's in like a Christian context or otherwise, it always seems like the universe supports what supports the universe, meaning when you have that spirit of generosity, it's kind of crazy how you kind of do get that back in return. And we've talked about this on the podcast before with other guests, but and even in my own life, there have been times similar where I'm trying to find ways to give and be generous, and not for any sort of reciprocation or to get anything in return, like an investment. But then you'd always be surprised on how much things come back to you after you start doing that. And it's not like it's a science, it's not something you can just kind of A B test, and it's not something where you can be generous and then expect your return to come in like a week or a month or something like that. Sometimes it doesn't come for months or years, or sometimes it never comes, and obviously that's not the point. You're not supposed to give for the sake of receiving something in return, but it's so crazy how people like yourself and myself and other people who give, they tend to be like, wow, it's kind of crazy how the more I give, the more I get in return, even though that's not the intent, right? So yeah, I love that. I love that testimony. Is there anything else that you've been doing differently that you've changed in terms of finances that has helped you?
Yeah, I my grip on money isn't as isn't as tight as it used to be. And I think one more testimony that I'll just share very quickly is, as a business owner, right now I'm actually choosing to not get paid from like the the what's it called? The net,
Like revenue? Yeah,
yeah, the tuition income. So I'm
right.
I'm actually opting out because I want a lot of the money to be cushioned for the studio. Um and again, in light of how little we made last month, one of our employees like really stepped up, and I my co-director actually suggested that we give that employee like um a big bonus. And I understood that she deserved it. However, um it was really hard to do that because it was going to come out of my personal funds, not from the business funds, because the business barely had enough to like cover, or at that time cover lease. Um and so I said yes, um but spiritually I was like so torn because I like it was really hard to sacrifice like my funds. Um but the moment that I did that, it helped me further like loosen my grip on money. And not to say that I'm being like cavalier with my finances, because that's not the case, but I think it's more just practicing that generosity muscle and exercising that and getting that working. Um, and so I think now I'm definitely the most generous I've ever been, you know, with my finances.
Nice. So I guess my question to you is maybe what can some people take from what you've learned recently, what you've been implementing recently into their own life? Maybe if they're also struggling with finances or specifically generosity, things like that, or similar situations, maybe not exactly as yours, but any advice you want to throw out there?
I know for some people who may not subscribe to Jesus, it might feel so ludicrous that, like, she's in debt but she can still muster the courage or like the balls to like be generous with her finances. And it does come from like my faith. If I can acknowledge that God can sustain all these things, then it's also me surrendering like that part of my life, the financial part of my life too. Um, and so far, I'm being well taken care of, um, as my testimonies have illustrated. So I think it's just doing that faith and surrendering that portion of your life to Jesus to take care of too.
Nice. Okay. So if people aren't necessarily Christian or subscribe to that, the theology or the spirituality of that, you could still say that there's a spirit of generosity that could help out, right? Is that correct?
The spirit of generosity does help loosen your grip on money.
Yeah. I wanted to ask, I guess, specifically on finances. I think I had this conversation with a friend of mine who is a financial coach, and we were talking about budgeting and conscious spending and all these other things. I was wondering, are there any specific tactical things aside from the spirit of generosity and tithing and surrendering your finances? But there are other things that you found that have made your finances more efficient. And some examples, I guess, while you want to, if you want to think about it, is like cutting back on things that aren't important or more frivolous spending, quote unquote frivolous, right? Whatever makes people happy. But or these kind of gratuitous purchases or large purchases while we're on the topic of finances, anything like that come across your plate on, okay, here's how I can optimize my finances a little bit better, especially as a business owner.
I can say for myself that I used to operate from a scarcity mindset. And so if I like something, I would buy that in abundance. Um, but I think now I am way better at disciplining myself and not spending on things that don't have an immediate, like, you know, value to it. So for instance, I make sure to not spend over a certain amount on food every month. I make sure to also not like purchase clothes. I have been cutting back on things and I have been disciplined in not spending these things since.
I was just curious because, especially even as a business owner, I'm sure finances are a big part of that. And I'm sure those decisions on, okay, how can we optimize this? Not just, tithing for me personally so that my business is better, but also how can we run the business better? If there's anything that comes to mind, maybe nothing does. I'm just curious because, um, last time we talked, you were talking about like mystery boxes and, those things that a lot of people buy, like at like those pop stores where they kind of have to buy like a whole set or they buy a bunch of mystery boxes to get the ones they want. So that's been like a huge craze I've seen in the past year. And my personal, obviously, that's not some stuff that I'm into, but my personal take on that now that I've been seeing it more the last year and a half or so is like that's basically gambling. People want to buy these cute little things and they're basically just gambling to get the thing that they want, or they can just like pay a premium to get the whole set. But essentially it's like, ooh, what do I get now? Tear it open. Oh, it's this. Oh, I already have this one. Or, oh, I didn't. Oh, I got the one I wanted. Same thing as Pokemon cards. Same thing as anything where it's like a random blind box or pack. And my brain is like, it's so crazy how these things are so trending and hyped, but it's such a waste of money because you just want a thing that has, okay, again, my own values. It's not nothing I like, right? I spend money on frivolous things like AMC popcorn, but I guess just to step back, it's like, okay, that truly makes you happy, but you just as long as you can acknowledge that it's gambling and it's gambling just to buy a material thing. And, you can put your own value on material things that I guess spark joy, but also it's kind of like you do know that that's how the capitalists and like the big businesses get you, right? They just want you to buy into this gambling system of dopamine and whatnot. So, yeah, it was like, dang, people are really going in on all these things like that. And so that was one of the things that came to mind because it reminded me when you mentioned like mystery boxes, and I'm not really into that, but yeah, I don't know if you had any thoughts.
Okay, that's something I can answer now. So, and I think I'm confident in my answer. Funny you mentioned that because I am a recovering Pop Mart enthusiast. I have a lot of boxes. In fact, I have one right here that I bought 2 years ago, but I never opened.
Mm.
So it's a complete
Are you
set.
are you supposed to open it, or you just want to keep it like unopened?
No, um, I'm a recovering Pop Mart enthusiast because I had a YouTube channel. I was, giving free advertisement to Pop Mart. I would film myself open these things. I would be like, yeah, what do I get? But in reality, I was spending more money than I should have. And especially now looking at this past couple months where, I'm not doing the best financially, I regret so much buying all these things. And I haven't even opened this box yet because I stopped devoting time into making YouTube content of me opening things, it doesn't serve me. I think that's something that the enemy had a good hold on my life. Like, you know, it trifled with my time. And so yeah, to answer your question, or okay, sorry, I don't remember the question, but it does give me a good segue to like the whole discipline aspect of it. And so a year later, I'm not spending money on toys anymore. And I've been more disciplined in being better equipped at discerning my time and how much I'm investing in like different things that don't serve me. And so I actually uninstalled YouTube and Instagram for about 2 months. I wasn't on the platform. And I've seen a dramatic change in how I navigate my time. Like I mentioned, I'm not spending money on Pop Mart art toys anymore. And so I have more finances to do things like tithe or to do things like being generous and buy my friend a drink or their food or like whatever. And so yeah, it's a complete change to how I was. Do I still spend on things that I like? Yes. The other day I went to Uniqlo and I like to buy the same pair of shirts or pants if I like it. And so I bought like 2 pairs of the same exact shirt that I like. And then I have 3 pairs of the same exact pants that I like. And, if you see me at the studio, you're like, wow, Miss Dorothy, you wear the same thing. It's like, well, because I have 5 pairs of the same stuff. Um, so I still have that element of me, but it's like better, like, like I
Directed.
navigate it better. Yeah. So,
Yeah, that makes sense. It's funny you mentioned Uniqlo and buying the same pairs because so Lisa, who's been on the show, one of my littles, and Blessy, who has been on the show, they are both also Uniqlo enthusiasts, and they're like, yeah, we'll buy the same thing multiple times, the same like item, just different colors or whatever. And I'm like, I feel that too. I don't think I necessarily buy the. Okay, no, that's wrong. I did. There are some pairs of pants that I got off Amazon. I'm like, wait, this is so functional and it looks good and is comfortable. And so I bought three more of the same one. So I'm the same way, right? And I think, but see, my own personal opinion, I think those sort of buys where it's like, okay, you like it and it serves a purpose and it's not just decorations that'll. To me, I don't like spending money on things that just gather dust and don't really spark joy, don't really have a function. I'm more of a functional buyer unless it's like an experience. And then I'm like, okay, this is not an investment. It's just an experience. It's a lifestyle choice, right? Just like cars or something like that. But I think if there are good purchases and you feel good about it and it's not like just sitting unopened or collecting dust, I think that's a good buy. Again, just my own value system, right? But yeah, I'm glad to hear that. It seems like you have more clarity in your finances, and I feel like that's a good takeaway for people as well. Is maybe not a lot of people have a good handle on how to do personal finances, but I think if you can get to the point where you feel that clarity, no matter what you spend on, you'll feel good because you're like you don't have that uncertainty looming above you of like, what am I doing? Or should I use this better? How do I get more? How do I save more, etc.? How do I spend less, right? So I'm glad to hear that. So I want to focus on the upcoming topics: boundaries, self-discipline, weight loss, romance, Jesus. I guess that's the thing that ties everything together. So let's go into boundaries, self-discipline, and I guess that goes into weight loss. So you mentioned specifically saying no to people. And I know, again, this is more of a like protecting your time and refocusing on what's important to you. Could you give some examples how you've come across using this no, saying no to people, and what can other people learn from saying no? And like if this is a challenge for them.
So you are an average of your 5 closest friends, and, you can apply that now to your own life, and you could probably see, like, where you fall, right? And if you want to be better at finances, then you would surround yourself with people who are good at that and whatnot. And so, me saying no to people right now is also me disciplining myself and making sure that the people that I do choose to spend time with do have um, a quality that I value. But me also saying no to people in what you're saying is more just me saying no to like the future romantic potential fling, right?
Mm.
And so since being single, there have been a handful of instances where, you know, a very handsome guy would come along, but then it doesn't sit right with my spirit. And so it was really hard, but I would have to say no, um, and no again, and no
What about
again.
it didn't sit right with your spirit?
So obviously, as a girl who's pursuing Jesus, I any potential romantic, you know, partner, I would bring it to the altar to Jesus and I would be like, Jesus, like, what do you think? Like, is there any red flags, anything that comes up? And the Holy Spirit would then tug on me. And if there's anything that I would feel that doesn't sit right, maybe it's something that they said, or maybe it's their faith, they're not Christian, or maybe they are Christian, but then there are aspects of them that like aren't quite there. Like I would have to have the courage to be like, okay, like I have to say no. And sure, that's a whole part of dating. You get to figure that out as you date. But I think, considering how sensitive I've been in the past to clinging to people prematurely, I also am operating from knowing that I'm not very conducive right now to also uh, like navigating those just yet. And so it's like staying steadfast to the idea that I should be single for as long as I can before and then identifying when I'm ready before saying yes to like entertaining or going out with the, you know, with the potential whatever, right? So yeah.
Okay. So correct me if I'm wrong. So it seems like you, as opposed to past Dorothy, you're now bringing these potential people in a romantic context to your value system of asking God, like, is this the right move? Should I be considering it? Are there any red flags? And evaluating it based on the lens of your spirituality and your faith, as opposed to former Dorothy who might just be like, oh, he's good looking and he sounds great and he makes me feel good and etc. And then kind of going that way, but more just like, okay, I know what my values are, I know what my standards, and I know what's important to me. Like also talking to someone who has the same spirituality, right? Ideally. And so that's how you've been able to say no better.
Yes. Um and I'm so different than how I was just, 8 months ago. Um when I just ended my relationship, I was like, "Oh, you know what? I haven't dated. Maybe I just have to be better at dating and like I can practice dating. Like I won't have any attachments." And so I began dating a little bit right after breaking up, and obviously that didn't go well. And dating isn't just some kind of thing you get to practice. Like I think now I'm of the believer where you shouldn't date to practice, oh, from the lens of the faith, right? Like um and so I am surrendering that aspect to Jesus now, and so now I'm more in tune of bringing things to the altar, everything to the altar. So yeah.
Hmm. I want to ask about the other things that you mentioned about discipline or self discipline, which is recalibrating your no cursing, and then also minimizing lying with the goal of not lying anymore. So maybe if we're tying this all together, the theme is Dorothy wants to be a better person as how Dorothy and God defines it, right? So I'm assuming that's why you want to curse less and not lie. Is there anything else beyond that, and maybe some examples of the challenges you face and how you've overcome them?
I've definitely been primed as a young adult to lie, and lying helped me save face. It helped me look better. And it would also help, like de-escalate, fights or situations where, I wasn't proud of what I did, and so I would lie or white lie, right? But since coming back to the faith, I am trying to minimize the lies because only good things can come out of telling the truth. And if good things come out of lying, it's so temporary, and that's not the full like picture. And I think that goes back to surrendering to God. It's like if you truly believe that God is sovereign over your life and he asks you to not lie, then you should also believe that he can take something ugly from its whole entire truth and then turn it into something better for you. If you're catching on like my wave
Hmm.
that I'm trying to ride.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's that. And what was your second part of that
Uh,
question?
yeah.
The cursing?
So you mentioned cursing and then lying, so I just wanted to ask you about those.
And cursing is the same thing too. I love to curse. I think it's fun to curse and it's fun to say bad words and have a good laugh with your friends. But
What are your
just kind
favorite
of
bad words?
like, oh, I can't say that right now. But
Just
I
mouth it.
would. I can't. What are you asking me to do? But anyways,
Just the beginning syllable.
uh,
Just the first one.
like,
A little sneak peek for the audience. What is Dorothy's
no.
formerly favorite curse words?
Oh man, I have a lot. There's a lot that I love to say,
Is it?
but what? No, no, no. Stop it. You're tempting me. But no, 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 no. S- no, stop.
Now you want to
Um,
say it.
I'm not gonna say it,
Don't
but
worry, God will forgive you. Just you can just let sneak one out.
that is true. God will forgive me if I accidentally, let it loose.
Accidentally, purposefully let it loose.
Yes. Um, and but the idea is like, whatever comes out of your mouth will actually taint your spirit. Even if it's like curse words or even if it's like lies. And so I am trying to be more aware of what I'm saying. And that just ties in with the whole discipline and pausing, kind of like what we are doing right now, where I have to pause and wait for you to finish talking. And then I go.
Nice. I actually had this conversation with someone recently about similar to lying and not cursing, and what you just said, which I really love, which was the things that you say also is kind of like maybe it's reversed, like a reflection of what's in you. And so speaking negative words taints you in that sense. And I was talking to a friend about integrity and how one of the biggest things that drains me as a person is dealing with someone who doesn't have integrity. But what I mean by integrity is they say one thing and they do another thing. But what I mean more beyond that is when they're not consistent with what they say. Like, I aspire, for example, I aspire to work out 7 days this week, and then they don't even work out once. And we can come at it as, okay, yeah, you're trying to do a new thing and it's tough and we'll give you grace for all that, etc., right? But when I hear someone say similar things like, I aspire to open up my own business or run the world or become president or all these other things, and they keep saying their aspirations, but then they never do anything about it, to me, when I see that consistently, I see them as a liar. I'm like, why would you say these things? You don't even mean it. Does your own word to yourself mean nothing? Meaning, like, I'm a person who I try my best to always keep my own commitments to other people, but especially myself. So if I say something, I do it. So when I don't see that standard in other people, it really bothers me more than it should because I am so strict on that standard. But I've realized as I've dug deeper, it's because to me, it feels like they're lying to my face when they tell me, "Oh yeah, I'll be there at 8," and then they're not here, or "Oh yeah, I'm gonna do this thing. This is my goal and whatever," and then they never do it, and it comes back and they're just. I'm like, "Are you a liar?" Because and the reason why I call them out on this is also because, sure, maybe you're not consistent, maybe you don't do what you say you're gonna do to me, but if you keep lying to yourself as a friend, I'm asking you a serious question. Do you think that's good for you to always be lying to yourself about what you say you're going to do, right? And so I thought that was interesting because it kind of reflects what you're saying, and I really like that thought. I don't know if you have any thoughts here of your own.
No, like, I'm glad that you were able to abstract value out of my sentence.
I think it's because we had so I loved your reflections, and then it just reminded me of a similar reflection I had recently.
Yes,
Yeah.
great.
Anything else on that before I switch topics?
No, that's it.
Yeah. I guess it's not really switching topics. We're kind of just going down the rabbit hole of Dorothy's is trying to be a better person. She's focused around Jesus, and here's all these things that she's been improving on, which is amazing, and I love that. So now weight loss. So you mentioned specifically that you lost 45 pounds via diet only, if that's correct. So my questions
True.
are, could you walk us through that process? One. For two, what was the catalyst for you wanting to do this? Maybe it's your being reborn. And what challenges have you had before when you're trying to lose weight that this time around it was easier or more effective?
Um, so I did flirt with Ozempics for a bit, and Ozempics was really hard. I would have to self-inject, I think, once a week at different sites on my body, and if I
Oh,
happen to skip,
really quick, what could you let the audience know what Ozempic is for those who may not know?
Ozempics is a self-inject, like, is a shot that you would self-inject, and it would curb your appetite. And so you would literally not eat as much as you want to.
Is this like over the counter? Do you need a prescription or
You need a prescription. And so I was prescribed this, luckily, and, when I would take it, it would be off and on because if I missed the shot, then my appetite would come back out of nowhere, I would overeat, and then if I try to go back on my shot after missing it, then I would have horrible side effects, like I would throw up or, um, like my body would I would be physically, like, tired, and it was just not a good I felt like it wasn't good for me, um, even though millions of other people have lost weight because of Ozempics. But I decided to stop Ozempics, and then I did decide to just do it, the hard way, which is via, intermittent fasting or, like, diet like, calorie restriction. And so, it was definitely a test of willpower for me, but I remember the first day I started my, um, intermittent fasting, I went to sleep so hungry, but I just kept thinking about how I know that I would when I get to my goal weight, I would be physically, um, you know, more attractive and I would feel better about myself. So I just kept thinking about that future. And so yeah, I would restrict my calories and I would also cut the sugars that I would intake. And so you're not supposed to have more than 25 grams of sugar a day and added sugars for women. I think for men it's like 30 or 35, not sure. But I knew that for me, at least, I stopped drinking like Gatorade. I stopped having ice cream. Like I stopped eating junk food. And if I wanted sugar, I would like eat a banana or I would have some fruit instead to satiate that. But that was very helpful and it also aided in like my weight loss journey. And I actually recently saw a nutritionist because now that I'm at my weight loss goal, I'm trying to eat like 2 meals a day. Whereas before, during my intermittent fasting calorie deficit, I was actually eating just 1 meal a day.
Do you know how many calories that was for that one meal?
Um, it would be like 1,200 about.
1,200. And then so
Yeah.
your fasting time, so your eating time was what, an hour, 2 hours?
Mm-hmm. It
Okay, and then
was
your
like,
fasting time was 22 hours then by math,
yes,
right?
it
Okay.
was, yeah, it was quite extreme. Yeah. But I'm at my weight goal now and I did it naturally. And I've been at my goal weight now for, I want to say 3, 4 months now. I was 175 and then now I'm at 138. So I'm like 138, 135. I hover right there.
Nice. Wow, we're the same weight. I'm also 138 now. We're
You
twins.
calling me a man? I'm just kidding.
And what? Not all men have the same build or weight or muscle like composition as me or you. You know what I mean? So,
That is a joke. Are you calling
anyways,
yourself a woman?
no, I'm saying why does that have to be a gender thing? I'm saying we are weight twins. We weigh the same amount. We have the same amount of pressure on the scale.
I just had to say the joke. It was a joke.
It's so funny, Dorothy. You should be a comedian. Okay,
Okay.
so with that being said, my two questions are: what was the like? Why did you want to lose weight? I know you kind of mentioned like maybe you feel better when you're like slimmer and you want to feel like you feel like it's more attractive. Was there anything else beyond just like aesthetics? Like your ideal of weights and aesthetics is the reason why, or is anything beyond that? Sorry. And then the second thing is, um, I know you mentioned a lot of like restricting time eating and also cutting out certain foods. What helped you to be more compliant with that thing? Because I think a lot of people can say, "Oh yeah, easy. I just eat less processed foods, eat less desserts, etc." But it's like easier said than done. So this time around, what has helped you to be more compliant with what you set out?
A lot of people, including myself back then, I would watch a YouTube video and eat at the same time. But I don't do that no more.
Because no YouTube.
No YouTube, no TV when you eat. And that actually helps you be more aware of how much you're eating and you're quicker to be attuned to the signals when you're satiated. Um, and so now in reality, instead of eating for like 30 minutes, my meal would be like 10 minutes and then I'm on to the next thing. And so that has helped.
So does like in that specific, I guess, strategy, you're saying that you eat less because you're not distracted and you're more present for your meal. So
Exactly.
if you were distracted and you were watching something, do you add more food to your consumption? Or I guess because I ask because when I sit down, I'm like, my meal's already set. Like it's the one thing, the plate, right? And so I also watch whatever YouTube or something like that. But regardless of if I'm watching something or not, my food is the same. So I guess that's my question, if that makes sense.
That's the thing. Your food is the same, but if you're not full anymore, sometimes you will not finish whatever's in front of you and you will put it
Oh,
away
okay.
in the
So
fridge
meaning like you might have overestimated your plate regardless, but now that you're more present with your eating, you actually might feel full and not finish.
sooner. Yes.
Gotcha.
You would feel
Th-
full sooner.
that makes sense. I guess it doesn't apply to me personally because all my meals are already, like it's set. But I think you're right. You have good advice because I think most people they're not have all their meals planned like I do, right? So I think that's good advice.
Well, for you, I don't know what your goals are, but I'm sure if you're trying to gain muscle or you're trying to gain weight, you will finish the food. But if you're trying to lose weight, then you would do what, or you would consider doing what I did.
Right. So it depends on, to your point exactly. If For example, if I was trying to gain weight, I have to be at a certain caloric surplus. Well, this is math now, I guess, for the audience. If you're trying to lose weight, you need to be at a caloric deficit, whatever your baseline is, whatever X amount of calories below that. Then, if you keep doing that consistently, you lose weight. If you're X amount of calories above your baseline, you will start to gain weight. And if it's if you're working out, it'll be muscle. If you're not working out, it'll be fat or etc. So yeah, just to your point.
Yes. And then also, and I don't know if this is, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm going to share some other um, wisdom that I've picked up in my weight loss journey. And I learned that if I'm eating, I should probably eat in the morning before working out. So that way I burn the calories that I get from there versus whatever's in storage, right? Um, and apparently sumos, they actually eat after working out, and that's how they maintain their weight. And so that that has also helped me just be more mindful of when I eat and timing it with my workouts so that I am also losing weight versus gaining weight.
Interesting. I've never heard that about sumos, but meal timing is something that I've also heard about, and my coaches and trainers have told me about too. And so that's interesting. I don't doubt that that also works. So I've heard several different things. So one, some people will fast in the morning, right, and then not eat until like let's say lunch, so that they're burning off whatever stores they had in their stomach before they went to bed or etc. And or some people say like they're in fat burning mode because now that their stomach is empty and their carbs and their glucose or whatever is empty, now they have to go into their fat stores, right? Apparently that's what some people say. And the opposite is some people say that they will do that process at the end of the day, kind of like what you're saying. Start off with the meal, and then you're active during the day, you burn all that stuff. So by the time you're going to sleep and you're stopping, you're not eating anymore. Now you're sleeping, now that's when your body is like quote unquote burning the fat or burning up its stores, right? So I think it's the same principle, but and so I guess now for my own experimentation, what I found works for me is I think my body does better when I eat first during the day and then have like a light midday and then I have like a very full dinner because me personally, I don't like going to sleep hungry. And so I'm like, okay, there has to be one of these periods, morning, afternoon, or night, when I'm eating less, right? And so for me, I found that I can either skip my first meal and have something light like coffee or tea or something like that, and then eat at lunch and then dinner, or I will for sure eat breakfast, start off with protein, and especially when I'm working out a lot, and I'll feel like, okay, my muscles, I got the protein I need, and I'm gonna work out in the afternoon. But during the afternoon until evening, I try to keep it lighter, and then dinner I always eat, make sure to have carbs because carbs help me sleep better, and so I'll save some carbs for nighttime, like rice or beans or whatever, with protein. Obviously, like each meal has 40 to 50 grams of protein for me because I need to get 150 because that's my weight and goal, etc., whatever. And so I've experimented with all types, and I think that's just what worked for me. And yours obviously is working for you. And I guess for the audience, it's if you're trying to gain weight, surplus, if you're trying to lose weight, deficit. But no matter how you do it, you have to find what works for you and your compliance. And if you can do that consistently, that's how you like get to your goals, right? So I like that.
Yes.
Anything else? That was very helpful. I liked the testimonies work are really valuable in my opinion.
I think for me, my testimony of weight loss is mainly just keep your eyes on the prize, delayed gratification. And that definitely helped me through nights where I was just so hungry. But I think after a week of doing that, the hunger pains went away, and I did see the results that I wanted to. And yeah, I'm very, very pleased with how I look now and how much lighter I feel. And my knee, actually, my right knee, has had, I have a injury where my right knee dislocates. It's called a transient dislocation where it pops in
Oh,
and out.
that sounds
Yeah.
fun.
It's not good. And now that I now that I weigh less, it doesn't come out as often as it used to. And
Mm,
so that was another motivating factor for me to also just lock in.
nice. I like it. And I guess as you're talking about your journey, it reminds me too of weight loss or any sort of body recomposition is always hard for everyone because our bodies are so used to equilibrium, right? And so it will be hard, but once your body gets used to that new cadence and that new diet or that new intake or food level, calorie level, it will get easier. You just have to stick through it, like Dorothy's saying, for a little bit, and then your body starts to adjust. Like, okay, this is my new baseline. I don't eat this much anymore. It's used to that. And another thing I learned from my fitness coaches is anyone can lose weight like 20 pounds and etc. like X amount of days. But what's more important is if you can keep that weight for a good amount of time, and then your body now readjusts the thermostat to that baseline. So it's not like crash diets and then you're skinny for 2 days and then you regain it all back. It's about readjusting your baseline to that weight and then now maintaining it. And now your body's like, okay, this is now what my normal is, right? So it's kind of
Yes.
sticking it out.
Yes. And I've been successful at maintaining my weight, like I mentioned. It's been a few months now. And I've had no desire to eat more and, or whatnot, and for splurge on ice cream or, whatever. So, yeah.
Nice. I like it. Anything else on weight loss or self-discipline?
How's the sound quality? I think my stepdad is singing karaoke now. Do you hear
I
it?
can't hear it. No.
Okay, good.
Yeah. And plus, I think the audio cleanup is really good. Like I said, it removes the popping that I'm still currently hearing, but it wipes it out in post.
Nice.
We love technology. Cool. All right. So I know we kind of touched upon this a little bit, but like romance and singleness and you saying no to people, is there anything else you wanted to add on to that? But I guess on top of that as well, you're saying, what do you prioritize and look for when considering someone in a romantic sense? And what is some helpful advice you think someone can benefit from when they're looking for a partner or considering romance in general?
Um, oh, jeez. Come on. Okay. Um, so for myself, there's two things I want to illustrate and through the lens of my faith. Um, I used to be of the camp where I would choose somebody and they may not be from the kingdom. They're not Christian, and then maybe they have like things that are still self-destructive for them, but I'm choosing to overlook it because I'm so attracted to them. And I would be like, God, like fix them. Like get them to a place where we can get married. Like God, you can do amazing things, fix them. But that's not how God wants us to be like. You are called to be more patient and then also to wait on God's promise. And so God will never send you someone who's incomplete. They'll send you somebody who has everything together, you know. And I think I want to ask you if you think this, JR, but I've kind of come to realize that with women, when we date somebody, we date them for their potential, but with men, when they date a woman, they hope that they never change, or whatnot. Like, especially, I think that's the case for most of the men that I speak to, right? They're like, oh, I hope she never changes. But like with the woman, it's like, oh, I can't wait to change him, or I can't wait to see how he's changing.
Wow, that's very interesting. And I think on the man's side or the men's side, uh, I read this in, I used to be really deep in personal development books and especially dating books too, and psychology of attraction and social dynamics. I think we talked about this before, but it is kind of like one of the best ways to attract someone. Again, this is like a straight heterosexual male stereotypes, generalizations. So just get that out of the way. But it's the best way to attract someone that you're interested in is to make sure to convey the potential that you know that you have, and not in a lying sense. Like you're actually working on yourself, you're grounded, you know what your values are and principles. But the idea is that you don't need to already be there. You don't need to already be the millionaire with the amazing body and career and all this other stuff. You just need to show that you're on your way and you're grounded and confident that you will get there. And so when you said the whole potential thing, I'm like, wait, that actually aligns to at least what I learned and what I kind of follow and what makes sense to me. But the woman's side was very interesting because I never thought of it that way. Like, oh, I hope she never changes. I would never want to speak for all men, but for me, I I wouldn't say that's necessarily true because I do think that, well, when I come across a girl who I'm interested in, it's like, yeah, I do like what I see, and but I wouldn't say that I would never want them to change because I have this, my value system is always constantly improving. And so if I want my partner to also constantly improve, it's not on me to hope that they don't get better, right? Because I feel like that wouldn't make any sense. Like, why would I not want my partner to also improve just like how I want to do? But the nuance there is also that what I've learned in relationships is you should always love and accept your partner as they are, but also of course support them in their goals and their growth and where they want to be. And so there's kind of, you have to live this dual sort of approach of like, yeah, I love you as you are and I don't need or want you to change. However, if you do have goals and ideally they do, I will support you in that and help you grow into that person and not be scared of losing the status quo. But I don't think that is shared by a lot of other people because maybe a lot of men or people in general love the status quo. And when their friends, best friends, or partner changes for the better, they have this scarcity of, oh, but where's my old best friend? They used to be so much more fun and we used to hang out all the time and party and stuff like that. But now they're just working out all the, like that sort of example, like a cliche example. For me, I would be like, yeah, that's great. My friends are improving and it makes me want to improve. So I don't resonate with that side of it, but I don't doubt that a lot of people agree with what you're saying of like the guy doesn't want the girl to change because now it's like the status quo, right? But I think those guys are just very static, closed-minded, not growth oriented, in my opinion.
I hear you. I think what I was trying to illustrate is when you because there's an element where you should kind of consider what their potential is, right? As a partner. Because we tend to live in the future. We're like, "Oh yeah, what will they be like?" But I do think if you're not sure of who you are, what your standards are, then that is so dangerous to go into because then at what point do you figure out like, okay, they're not in their potential and it's been 10 years and they still like, do I have 10 more years to give? Or like at that time, time is just, you know, it's not objective anymore. Um, and so a lot of people do fall into that trap.
It is kind of like that whole toxic, oh, I can change him sort of stereotype of girls and their boyfriends who are like, he might just be good looking, but he doesn't have his shit together. And so it's like, oh, I can change him. That sort of toxic mentality. So I get that.
Yes. That is the story of Beauty and the Beast at a psychological level, right? She can
True.
change him and then he gets changed and then she's awarded and he's not a beast anymore. Um,
Oh, I never thought of it like that. Wow, Disney
yes.
teaching us young to be toxic.
Yes. But yeah, what was your other question?
So I guess advice when approaching romance or in a romantic context of what they should be looking for in a partner. So you just mentioned like knowing what you want, right? So if you wanted to continue.
I used to be a girl that would just accept any, validation. Anybody who's interested in me, sure, you can take me out. Um, but I don't subscribe to that idea anymore. And that's the exercising of the no, right? You because you can give in to that instant gratification and, you know, receive that and be happy with that. But I do believe that when you say no, you're recalibrating your standard. You're recalibrating. And then eventually you are setting yourself up for that person in the future who does meet everything and you can discern better because let's face it, I think a lot of people who do entertain these quick dates, if you will, like they're probably going to be stuck here filtering through a lot of quick dates before they are able to discern like who their forever partner is. And that's something that I've kind of learned to do. And so I have several testimonies that I can share that illustrates that.
Oh,
hmm So I had to take my car to get fixed. And so the dealership sponsored my rental car. And I rolled up to Enterprise. And when I walked in, I really thought I would see old, unattractive white men. But in fact, I saw sexy, fine, did I say sexy yet? Sexy
You know what's gonna happen now?
white
Girls
men.
are gonna go to Enterprise and they're gonna be like, I was promised sexy men from Dorothy, and when they get disappointed, they're gonna be so mad.
Well, the joke is that they're still white guys, but they're actually young and sexy.
I don't know why you had to
um,
bring race into this, but
I guess you're gonna cut that out too, then, won't you? You should
I
cut
could cut
out
this whole
whatever
thing
makes
out
me
if you
sound
want.
bad.
So you want me to cut the whole interview, I see? I'm just kidding.
No,
Just
no.
kidding.
Um, and so yeah, there's a tree of really fine, attractive men, and the most attractive guy of the bunch took the initiative to service me. And I thought it was obvious pretty quickly that he was attracted to me because he threw a lot of compliments, and then even after handing me the keys to my car, he made every effort to stay back and try to get my number. And he was like, "Oh yeah, I've been trying to get into dance. Like, I know you're a dancer. Do you teach dance?" And I was like, "Well, I teach women and children." And he's like, "Well, like, can we do private lessons? Like, oh yeah, like, can we blah blah blah?" And you know what I did? Like, he was really cute, and I would love to have given him my number, but I knew early on in our conversation that he wasn't Christian, and then also like he was way younger than me. And so I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to give you the email of my business, and you can email us and we'll hook you up with a male instructor to help you reach your goals. So unfortunately for him, he didn't get my number, and I was able to exercise that no. Obviously, a week later, he does not contact the business. And so for me, I was like, "Oh, I'm going to see him." I returned my car a week later, and he's there again. And it's like, he's so handsome. And it's like, okay, like I have to go through this a second time. And of course, it happened the second time. He's like, "Oh, Dorothy, um, so what do you do? Like, do you smoke?" And I'm like, okay, no, I don't smoke. He's like, "Oh, well, what do you think about drinking?" I don't drink. And he's like, "Oh, well, do you like coffee?" And I'm like, "I don't drink coffee." And he's like, "Okay, you're a tea girl." And I'm like, "Yeah, I love tea." And he's like, "Okay, can I have your number? Let me take you out for some tea." So, the screening questions came in, and he was more upfront about it. And I'm like, "I'm so sorry, but like, I subscribe to Jesus and you don't know Jesus and I can't give you my number, but I can't." And he's like, "Well, can we please be friends?" And so I unfortunately gave him my number. And of course, I'm not stupid. Like, later that day, he sends me a beautiful text. He says, "How's your day going?" And we both know that's the start of your dating, like whether you say you're friends or not. And so I was like, I'm too old for this. I know what this is gonna do. So I sent him a message back and I said, "Hey, like, I actually don't have the bandwidth for a friendship. And also, you're a walking temptation. So we can't be friends."
We actually said
But
that, a walking temptation.
he's like, yeah, he's like a walk. Like, it's flattering. He found it flattering because he said later,
Oh.
like, "Oh, thank you."
Well, yeah, I
Um,
mean, I know, but that sounds like you're just flirting with them at that point. You're like, no, I'm very attracted to you, but I'm not.
so I told him, "I'm sorry, we can't be friends. You're a walking temptation. We can't be friends." And I told him, I was like, "Hey, but if you look up, like later down the line, you come to know Jesus, like reach out to me." And he's like, "Yeah, like, I guess me and Jesus have a lot of catching up to do." And at first I thought that was like, okay, I made it. But then when I prayed about it later that night, like God still showed me like that's me keeping the door open, and that's not me really like being like saying no. And so I unfortunately I had to block his number. So I will never hear from him ever again. I mean, unless God orchestrates like he finds my church and blah blah blah. But in the meantime, You know,
Instead of having to block him, you could just been like, "I'm not looking for anything. You're not my type," and then just stop it there. But you're like torturing yourself by leaving the door open, flirting, giving, exchanging numbers, texting back, and saying, "Hey, if you meet Jesus and you hang out, then maybe there's something there." And then after that, now you have to block him because you weren't actually being honest with him about like, "This is not what I'm looking for, and I'm not open to being friends."
see, but that's the thing, like, looks-wise, he is my type. He's handsome,
No, but
and
yeah, but
he
looks wise. But if you're subscribing to your new value system, he's not
yes.
your type. So
No,
you're
he's
just
not
explaining your struggle of like your earthly sin type
fighting
of values and your
see,
now new values.
but see, that's the thing, JR, like, when you come to Jesus, like, it's not a clean cut, like, old Dorothy cut new Dorothy. It's like it's that transition. And so there are old aspects of me that I'm fighting, right? And it was very tricky and I maybe didn't do it in the best way, like you're saying right now, because it's not. I should have said no, but it was convoluted, right? Story ended with his number being blocked and I'll never hear from him. And unfortunately, like, that's how it ended. But like that's still a testimony
Until you
because
go back to Enterprise and you need another rental, and then you probably
I'm
will
not
hear from him
going to
again.
Enterprise. I'm going somewhere else.
Uh
But you know what I mean. Like, I think
yeah,
that's
yeah.
still a win because how old Dorothy would entertain it and then look forward to those like those dumb text messages of like how's your day, like and be happy with that. But that's not what I'm called to have joy in right now. So, yes, it's a work in progress.
Yeah. No, I was just trying to give you a hard time. But no, I like that. I appreciate your vulnerability and being like, "Hey, I'm trying my best here. I still get tempted. I'm not perfect, right?" So I get that.
Yes. Yeah. Um,
Cool.
yeah.
Otherwise, after this, I want to go into ending questions like gratitude, but anything you feel like is very important to touch on?
I guess my to summarize like where I'm at right now, it's just surrendering everything, all aspects of my life and also praying about it and exercising like the Jesus the Jesus muscle of like give it to Jesus first, give it to Jesus first. And I am seeing right now like everything is more fruitful. Like this is the first time ever, that I'm single for this long and so I think like a lot of things might be stupid sounding to people who have been celibate or who haven't dated in a long time, but I think maybe I might connect with people who have chronically jumped from relationship to relationship, who don't know Jesus or who say that they are believers in Christ, but they're actually like still struggling somewhere in between, right? So, yeah.
I like that. Thanks, Dorothy, for your honesty and vulnerability. And like you said, I think your perspective is very valuable because there are probably people in a similar sense that could get value from your experience and struggles, right? Cool. All right. Let us go to ending questions. Gratitude. We always end with gratitude. So, Dorothy, what are you grateful for?
I'm grateful
She's going to
that
say Jesus.
Jesus died
I
on
knew
the
it.
cross for me. Hey, okay, you know what? Like, I don't know if I said this yet. I forgot if I said this yet, but one of the transitions that I have now from old Dorothy to new is like, I want to be a good friend to the people that I'm friends with. I try my best to be on time, to hear them out, but then also to share whatever I'm going through. And I think a lot of people say like, "Oh yeah, you should have a relationship with Jesus." But I think it's so intimidating, like the idea of God and his rules and reading this huge thick Bible. It's intimidating that nobody really understands that for what it truly is. And so I have been practicing seeing Jesus like an actual person like you. So it's like I'm making time to have dates with him. I'm making time to talk to him through my prayer, and then I'm taking time out to hear him talk through reading about the works that he's done. And so that's what I'm grateful for. I feel like that has made me grateful for everything else.
I like it. All right. Do you have any final ask from the audience or final takeaways? I know you summed up a lot of it, but anything else we did not touch upon?
if I mentioned it in my last podcast with you, I'm going to just say it again, but you should consider treating yourself as if you were your own parent. What would you do to your like, what would you do in your life? Would you wake up earlier? Would you take up, like, that instrument lesson? You know, or would you dance more? Would you work out? Like, I think that will also help, just help you reach your potential. So, yeah,
Nice.
that's my last thing I'd like to say.
Cool. All right, Dorothy. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. I think I'm very proud of how far you've come in the last year, but also even the last several years that I've known you, and it's very inspiring. Even for myself, I've been going to church more often recently, also directly because of you, and I'm joining a small group soon because we're having more in our church. So yeah, so I just wanted to thank you and give you a shout out as a friend of mine for inspiring me through your own actions. So I appreciate you for that. All
Mm.
right, Dorothy. Well, let's close us off. So thank you guys for being here. I really appreciate it. Make sure to like, follow, subscribe, leave us 5 stars. Leave Dorothy love in the comments. She might not see it because she's not really on Instagram, but I'll pass it along to her. And reminder that you should always be kind to other people, especially yourself. And remember that you can always learn something from someone if you take the time to listen. So thanks for being here.
Thank you, JR.
Yay.